We've got the 3 skeins of yarn that I'm using, and we have also the pattern that I'm using, which actually folds out really, really nice like this. Open that, and a really cool thing that these vintage patterns often have is a built-in ruler along the side, which is super, super cool. But we're going to focus on the materials we need right now. So we're going to need a pair of size 11 long knitting needles, and based on the fact that I'm using a slightly thicker yarn than I think they're asking for, I might have to adjust that for my gauge, but I picked this up in England when I was there last time in May, and so as you can see, this is English sizes versus metric sizes. So this is what Americans would recognize as their knitting sizes, and also some knitting needle sizes have been changed over time. But if you look at the 11 here, we're gonna look at a size 3 here. So we're gonna start with a size 3, and we're gonna knit to the gauge measurement, which is labeled here as tension. So we've got all of our balls of yarn here wound. Of course, this one is split and these 2 are full skeins, but it won't matter once we start knitting, which I am super excited to start the gauge swatch now, even though I really, really hate gauge swatching. Any knitter I know, I've never met a knitter who enjoys gauge swatching. It is just a way of blocking you from getting where you want, which is the knitting part. That's the fun part, but it is incredibly worth it, I will say. Actually, hold that thought. I was just looking at the materials. Now, granted, we've got the size 11, we've already talked about that. But then I looked at this. This design should only be attempted by the experienced knitter. That is quite the, quite the warning here. I mean, am I qualified? I've been knitting for 20 years. Does that make me experienced? I think it does. It's okay. We're gonna have a little self-confidence today. All right. Alrighty, so we've done our little gauge swatch here, which I did, it says to do 8 stitches to an inch, so I did 16, that way you can count really evenly, and it does measure out to 2 inches when it's going to be blocked and everything, and it is, as we said, 10 inches to 1 inch vertically. So I was right in thinking that the yarn is going to be a little bit thicker, so this is going to be a little bit denser. I was right in thinking that we needed a smaller needle than a size 3. We actually needed a size 2. That's what I started with. So my gauge is pretty on point for what I expected, because this is a DK yarn, and what I expected they wanted here was a fingering weight. So yeah, we can unravel this and get to the real pattern. Alrighty, here we have it. This is the bottom base right now, and you can see it'll be clear when you block out, but after about an inch of ribbing, we just sort of started decreasing, and now we're getting ready for the cables, which I'll show in just a sec. But essentially what you're doing is you're crossing 2 knit sections, and then we're going to go back to the knit purl sort of ribbing aspect to create this lovely texture that'll hug into your high hip and into your waistline. So it's gotten a bit tricky here. So what they had us do is that they're having us, obviously to maintain the outside line, they've got me purling 2 stitches, but then they did something that I've never done before, which is slip the following 4, knit 2, and then knit the first 2 on the back needle, and then purl 2. So that way you're maintaining the purl border on either side, but you still get this lovely cable twist. Oh my God, that's actually so smart. Oh my God. Ah! Okay, 2.5 seconds later when rereading the pattern, I'm wrong. They had me slip the, absolutely just do a normal 2 purl stitches for the border, like I said before. And then they had me slip the 4 stitches, knit 2 stitches, but then they're going to have me purl the first 2 and then knit the first 2. So there's a gap on the middle of these, and then this still maintains the purl border over on this side, so that then when we go back, it still is the knit purl, knit 2, purl 2 rib that we have down here. Oh my God. See, now I'm even more mind blown. My God. Good morning, or I guess today's the afternoon now, because it's afternoon, but I'm sitting on the floor. Hi. We're on the floor today because I don't have access to a tripod right now, but did this in 2 days, which is ridiculous, by the way. I spent way too much time staying up late last night, but look at it! Look at it! Look at it! Battery. Okay, so you can see why they had us do those little 2 stitches in between the cables. Now, I've only ever done cables flopping right over each other, but this means when it flexes, when it forms around the shape of your body, you get these nice little O's, which I've seen done before a lot, but I've never done them myself, which is super fun. But you can already see just with the decreasing and increasing alone with the cables, which will be blocked out more, you can see how much shape this already holds. Like the tailoring for 1940s garments is dramatic, from the waist to the shoulders, from the waist to the hips. It is amazing. It is really amazing. I will say though that for vintage knits, especially for 1940s and 1930s knits, which is what I typically do, you want a fingering or sport/DK weight and a much smaller needle. Normally for me, I am knitting with size 1s to 3s, never really more than 3s. When you get back up into the 70s and late 60s, you're going to start working with like US size 6s, US size 7s, because the style was a more drapey style. But more of the 1930s and 40s was a much more tailored knit, and often because of the war years, wool was rationed, especially in the UK. So not having access to that wool influenced a lot of Fair Isle knits, multicolor work knits being very popular. Also, cable knits were harder, like the one I'm doing right now is much harder because it requires a lot more wool. Also, side note, look at my cup. My friend Andrew gave me this, and I am proud to show it off at every moment. But what we're going to be doing next is actually really interesting, because my pattern here, no idea what this is. Okay, so looking at the pattern next, what we're going to do is we're going to commence the sleeves. Now, this is a style called a dolman sleeve, very arched look, but when you have it down, it looks very drapey, which is how we get this. That's what I'm talking about, right there, right there. Perfect, perfect. All right, so what we're going to do is they're having me cast on, for my size, well, first we have to work 11 rows, because we finally increased to the point where we have 156 stitches right. We originated with 128 at the end of the cables, and now we've increased to the point of 156 every 4 rows. So now we're going to do 11 rows to make that sort of the amount from the waist to the underarm area, as long as my torso is, and then we're going to cast on 105 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. So essentially what we're doing is we've made the back, and then we're going to add all of the stitches on, knit 1 row. All of these stitches for the other arm on, finish the row. So then we'll have this giant rectangular panel that will then turn into the sleeves, if that makes sense. In my brain it does, but I may draw a diagram in post to illustrate this a little bit more clearly. Okay, so that makes actually a lot of sense. So what they're having us do once we cast on the sleeves is we're going to work each sleeve individually. That way it's not just knit up like a rectangle, so it has more shape when we start doing the shoulders. But I'm super happy with this though. I mean, this mustard color. I actually could wear it with this blouse. I'm really happy with how this is coming out. I wish you guys could feel this, because the texture is just, there is no cold getting through that, and I am so excited. I am going to be traveling to London in the end of March to see my beloved sister, so I am hoping to have this done in time. We shall see. All right, onward. bought 3 skeins of 350 yards for Miss Babs, as previously stated, probably early in this video. I don't know, I haven't edited this shit yet. And it's not gonna be enough. I am 2/3 of the way through my second ball of 3. And let's just say, I'm not even through the back yet. So we still have to do the whole front, and then the yoke, and then the cuffs, and the shawl collar. We did not buy enough yarn. We did not buy enough yarn. Oh my God. Oh. No. This project just got a whole lot longer. I've been working on this, you and me. Yes, no. So I've been working on this project for about a week now, and now that I've sent in the notice to Miss Babs requesting for more of the Killington Goldenrod, I'm gonna need at least 2 more. I might buy 3 just to make sure. But I have to wait for it to come back in stock. It's out of stock completely. It's completely sold out. Now we shall see how far we get, 1, with the amount of yarn that we have, and 2, how long it takes for me to be able to then order it, the new yarn, and then backtrack and finish the sweater off from whatever I can't finish right now. For those of you who don't know, yarn chicken is when you buy a certain amount of yarn believing it is enough, but know that the quantity of it is potentially a little bit closer than is comfortable for how much you're going to need. Say, because if anything goes wrong, the amount you are leaving to weave in your ends, anything. So I have been notoriously bad at yarn chicken this year. This is the second sweater where I've bought the yarn from a previous year. I think that I have enough for the project. I start the project and then I realize at the time of purchase, I haven't bought enough. And future Greta is going to be much, much better about this, because current Greta is oh so sad. So it's the next morning and we are coming to the realization that we're going to finish the back. I don't want to start the 2 front pieces because I don't want to get confused then when I go back once I have the amount of yarn that I need. So instead, we're going to have to find something else to do. Unfortunately, we have no yarn, we have no projects at all. Woe is me. So I'm gonna try to get the first installment of this up pretty quickly here, and we're gonna start another project. But part 2 will come as soon as I get the yarn for it, so